Good evening, everybody. It is the Safety and the Sportswriter show with Knoxville, Nate, and Big Joe on a Friday edition, championship weekend edition of our football broadcast. And we have a lot to get to tonight. We have some coaching changes going on, some weird firings, some weird hirings. But the big thing is, we'll talk about what happened on last weekend and what we look forward to this weekend. Nate, how you doing?
I'm doing good, sir. Ready for the showdown, the NFC showdown and the AFC showdown. I've got the teams that I want to win, and I've got the teams that I think will win. So we can talk about both.
Yeah, the good thing is, you know what you got to love about this Final Four is the fact of the matter is there's no disputing they're four of the best teams.
Yeah.
I mean, you don't have to worry that some Cinderella's going to show up and give us a 35-3 loss. I think we're going to get two good games out of these four teams because they're well matched, especially Kansas City and Cincinnati have a real recent history with each other. There's no disputing Philadelphia was the best team in football till Jalen Hurts hurt his shoulder, and who knows what their record would have been like without it, but they do still have a home field advantage. And San Francisco, along with having the great story of quarterback, has been consistent throughout the year, no matter who their quarterback was. So I'm looking forward to a great weekend there. But let's start out with a little bit of the coaching hiring. I mean, I did not expect Frank Reich to be getting a head coaching job as fast as he did. And already we're hearing the rumbles, the political stuff, and everything else about it. I'm kind of confused on how Frank Reich is going to be the answer there when, I mean, he was 40-33 over his years with Indianapolis. He bottomed out this year. But I don't know, like you said last week, maybe offensive coordinator is his strength.
Yeah, you know what though, I think he deserves another chance. I mean, this is a telltale example, as I always talk to you about. You can tell if somebody's a good coach by when they're fired, if they're hired immediately. And I think this is another sign of that. I mean, do I think he deserved to get the Panthers job? I mean, we could debate that all day. But the fact of the matter is he had at least one, maybe two hands tied behind his back in Indianapolis with that crazy ass owner. I mean, okay, now this week you can play Matt Ryan. This week you can't play Matt Ryan. This week you can run this off. I mean, it was like Jerry Jones on drugs, which is exactly what Jim Irsay is, and on coding, and it's just I feel bad. I felt bad for him because he tells him he can't play Matt Ryan, and then they're not going to play him for the rest of the year. And then, they lose a bunch of games. Then he fires them for losing the games. Then he hires his buddy, Jeff Saturday, and then Matt Ryan's allowed to play again. It just, it was a disaster. And, it all started back when Andrew Luck abruptly retired. And instead of fixing the quarterback position and, doing the right thing by drafting one and, grooming one from the beginning, they tried to bring in Phillip Rivers, and then they tried to bring in Carson Wentz, and then they tried to bring in Matt Ryan. Well, guess what? There's a reason why those guys were all available. They were either old or they were done, or in Carson Wentz's case, they just kind of lost whatever it is. And so he got blamed for all of that. And I'm not sure all of that is his fault, but let's be honest. He had the Colts rolling, even with Phillip Rivers and even with Carson Wentz, given their deficiencies. And he led the Eagles to the Super Bowl, just a couple of years ago when he was the offensive coordinator. So I think he will do a good job in Carolina if he's given a quarterback to work with, and if he has the support of the front office.
Well, like you always said, Carolina Panthers are kind of a mixed bag. You never know what you get there. The thing about it is, when I was thinking about Frank Reich getting hired so fast, I thought back to Bill Belichick when he got fired by Cleveland, and there was enough people there. I mean, it's not like he did a really bad job in Cleveland. I mean, he won. He got him to the playoffs and won a game with Vinny Testaverde as his quarterback.
And if not for the fumble by Kelvin Mack and the drive by John Elway, who knows how far
that was Schottenheimer. That happened. But I mean, the thing was, he stepped back went back to his comfort zone, was a defensive coordinator under Parcells for a couple of years, got to reassess everything. Sometimes I think when you rush back into that job, you don't have time to decompress and look at the mistakes you do make, eliminate them, and look what worked for you and start doing that. I mean, sometimes that's the only thing I'm worried about with him, because he's going into a situation where he doesn't have a lot of talent to start out with. And,
yeah, but I mean, look at Doug Peterson. I mean, he set out for a year.
Well, that's it.
But that was 1 year, and he's back in the saddle and doing good things in Jacksonville. So I think Frank Reich can do it too.
Well, let's see it, and we'll see if the GM also gets him enough talent to do something with it. Because you know as well as I do, you can be the smartest coach in the NFL, and still, if you don't have the talent to do it, if you don't have the horses, it ain't going to help you. So that's one thing that'll worry me. The other thing that's going on right now, the Buffalo Bills fire their safety coach. I mean, some of this, I understand there was disappointment in places like Dallas and Buffalo and stuff like that. But, I mean, the assistant coaches that are getting fired, the linebacker coach of the Dallas Cowboys, who had one of the best defenses, and you're firing your defensive assistants. Is it just because we as fans are so thirsty for blood that these teams now think they have to give us blood? I mean, because when you're looking at some of the firings that happened, I was like, are you kidding me? Why?
Well, I mean, we talked about it right after the Chargers lost, and then they blew a 27-point lead at halftime and then fired their offensive coaches.
Yeah.
So, somebody has to, in this day and age, someone has to fall on the sword. Someone has to take the blame. And it's like every year, we have all these coaching changes. And, this year, there wasn't as many. Last year we had 8. This year we only had 5. And a lot of them, were made during the season. The Panthers, the Colts, some of the other teams made the decisions in the middle of the season. And, at the end of the year, there wasn't a lot of other teams that I think really wanted to do that and start over. So they just fire assistants. And, I've never understood that, why you're firing your staff. It's basically you're firing your staff to keep your job. And I never liked that.
And the other thing is, if you think over the years, I can only say this from being a Giant fan and watching Parcells and Belichick. Belichick not so much now because his guys go on to become head coaches. But, I mean, if you look at that Parcells staff, where you had Belichick, you had Ron Earhart, you had Mike Pope, you had Romeo Crennel. I can go on with a list of these guys that followed him wherever he goes. So he had continuity. When he walked in that locker room, those coaches knew what he expected, how he wanted the day to run, how he wanted them to run the team. And, when you don't have that, when you're totally retraining your staff to be the staff you need it to be, it really, I think it causes more confusion than anything else. So, I mean, and like you said about, who the Chargers fired, well, Dallas, they only gave up, 19 points, 18 points to the San Francisco. It wasn't like it was a defensive problem.
Oh, their defense played phenomenal. They held them to 4 field goals and 1 touchdown. And that 1 touchdown drive, that was just great play calling. That was great execution. That was phenomenal offensive play by the 49ers. It wasn't like the Dallas defense, screwed up. Their defense played a great game, in my opinion. You hold the 49ers to 19 points on the road. I think that's a great effort. And do I think any of the defensive staff should have been? And that was the other thing, is they kept, the defensive coordinator decides to stay around, and you reward him for staying around by firing some of his staff. I don't know. Maybe he wanted to get rid of them. I have no idea, but it just seemed weird to me why anyone from that staff should be like, this defense is light years better than it was 2 years ago.
Right. The problems are on the offensive side of the ball.
Yeah.
If anything, you should be putting Kellen Moore on the fire.
Yeah, well, you know what? Kellen Moore was calling good plays. I don't think he told Dak to throw it to the other team twice when they were inside the 35.
No, but I mean, this is the thing is that it sometimes it's not just about the play calling, or you could talk about, Kellen Moore and the offensive side saying to Dak, you're turning the ball over too much right now. I mean, you're costing us a chance at the championship, because what do you have 7 straight games with interceptions, including And that's where maybe I know it's hard to do in today's football, and these quarterbacks are getting too much power because he's making so much money. You couldn't, but Cooper Rush would have been probably an option if you think about it. Now, hindsight's 2020, but when Zach was effing up, you it's like I could put Cooper back in. Zach, we were winning with him. So I mean, this game is not guaranteed for you, even if you are making $40 million. And that brings me right to my next subject, which is I've been talking to you about for the last weeks because I'm up in this area, and I swear the bouquets that are being sent for Aaron Rodgers, and now they go out and hire Nathaniel Hackett. It's obvious they hired him just to come in and try and attract Aaron Rodgers. That's the only reason you can get him. He was terrible in Denver. Up in Green Bay, LaFleur called all the plays. He did do well in Carolina when he was with there. But I mean, LaFleur's younger brother, Mike LaFleur, was Salah's best friend and knew what Salah wanted, and now he brings in a guy he doesn't even know. What other link is there except to get Aaron Rodgers to maybe come here? And we all know Aaron Rodgers can't depend on him deciding one way or the other what he's going to do, and he's not going to make any decision until probably June.
Well, and then you were talking about Frank Reich. Well, the Hackett move astonished me more. I mean, at least Frank Reich has proven at some different points that he's a good coach. Nathaniel Hackett was the offense coordinator in Green Bay and didn't call the plays. Right. Then he gets the head coaching job in Denver and completely and utterly embarrasses the team, embarrasses himself, and gets fired before the season's even over. And now he gets rewarded by a new job. Trying to fix one of the worst offenses in the league. I mean, how someone thinks that he's the answer for that offense, I have no idea, because I've lost all faith in him, and I never even had any.
And you know better than me probably about this. I mean, when you think about it, if you're now Jimmy G or Derek Carr or even Aaron Rodgers, aren't you picking up the phone, calling up those guys before you sign with the Jets and saying, what's this guy Hackett like? What's he going to do for my career? Russell Wilson might sit there and go, don't go there.
Yeah, I would be concerned if I was any of these guys. I don't know. And honestly, the assumption that this guy is just going to land you Aaron Rodgers is straight wrong, because I think that was what a lot of people were saying when he was hired in Denver. And guess what? Aaron Rodgers didn't choose to go there, and he certainly could have. So I just don't think these people that are all like, oh, that means Aaron Rodgers is going to the Jets. No, it doesn't, because they said that last year when he signed as the head coach with the Broncos, and hell, he didn't even make it through the whole season.
Well, and the other thing is his favorite wide receivers in Las Vegas right now. Las Vegas.
Yeah.
I mean, Aaron Rodgers, who his eyes are on it. In another couple of years, he's going to retire and get a game show or something. Where is he going to go? He's going to Vegas, man. If he's going anywhere, and there's no even tell. I mean, all of this right now is people throwing stuff against walls. But the worst thing is, what frustrates me is when I watch the Jets. They seem to think and take this stuff seriously. If it comes out on the Fan or ESPN, they act on it. I mean, there's no assumption. Well, let's see. I've got Joe Douglas. I have a plan. I'll go out and find myself a veteran quarterback. It may be Aaron Rodgers. It may not be Aaron Rodgers. I don't know who it is right now. I'm going to see who's the best for me. But the other thing is, as well as I do, he's only going to be around for a couple of years, man. And if it doesn't pay off, luckily for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, it paid off with Brady that first year. If it didn't pay off that first year, it would have been looked at as a failure. But it paid off. They got their Super Bowl title. But the other thing that concerns me more about this is because, like I said, what all these quarterbacks are making right now and how they're overpriced. I don't want to say overpriced, but they're pricing themselves out of staying in places long periods of time. Is this going to become like the NBA where we see people uprooting and going they'll stay until they make the big money and then they start moving around? I mean, the one thing I always loved about football was a little continuity. I mean, quarterbacks that were successful stayed in places for 8, 10, sometimes 15, 16 years. Now we're going to have him, stay for 5 years. Let's get on to the next guy. I mean, what do you see about that?
Well, I think, yeah, I think look at Deshaun Watson. I mean, he basically just said, I want out after he had just signed a big contract and they let him out. So I think the players have way more control than they've ever had. I think especially these quarterbacks that make these big bucks have a lot of say-so in, where they're going to go, where they're going to play. And I think it's just going to get worse the more money these guys have. Now, I'm confused about the whole Aaron Rodgers thing because he just signed a big extension. And, it's basically going to cost the Packers money. I mean, everybody's like, oh, he's gone. He's not going to go to the Packers again. Well, it's going to be dead cap money that the Packers are going to have to take on if he leaves. And they just, decided last year they wanted him to stay. They gave him a big extension. He's making $50+ million a year, and now he's gone. Like, I just have a hard time believing that they're going to let him go when they built this whole offense around him. They just gave him a big extension, and there's a lot of dead money that'll be on the table if he does leave.
And the other thing is, does Jordan Love? With Jordan Love, we don't. If is he the answer? And do they want to go back down and rebuild again? I mean, you've got your wide receivers, you got some good young running backs. Do you want to start all over again? You want to, you've put this team together to hopefully win and squeak out one more championship with Aaron Rodgers before he retires, and now you're going to tell all these guys, oh, we're going to go back and start all over again. I just don't see it.
Well, and, bringing in Aaron Rodgers is not a surefire way to guarantee a Super Bowl victory. No. I mean, Tom Brady, yeah, you bring him in, you're probably going to win a Super Bowl. The guy's won 12 of them. So I can understand that. But Aaron Rodgers has won one Super Bowl. And guess what? It was 13 years ago. So, I just don't believe the hype that, we're close. Let's bring this guy in and win the title. Well, the Packers have been real close a lot of times, and they never got all the way there with that guy. So I just don't think he's the answer to all the problems. But to answer your question from before, what do I see happening with these quarterbacks, and do I see more movement? Yeah, look at this every year. Teams, rosters, they're completely built and rebuilt and torn down. Look at last year, all those trades on draft day, Hollywood Brown going to Arizona, A.J. Brown going to Philly. I think that it's going to be free agency is a real thing now. And people are going to, if they can't pay these big time contracts, these guys are going to get traded elsewhere, and guys are going to take their chances with younger guys. And you just can't pay everybody. That's just the way it is.
Well, you know what it means? It means dynasties are going away of the dinosaur, which maybe is good. But, the dynasties give you that reason to hate or love your team. You know what I mean? It's like we might look back on the Belichick Brady days and say, wow, that was a good time. Like we look back on the Packers. Like we look back at the Steelers. Like we look back on San Francisco, as it can't be done again. It can't be done again because the money's too much for one or two people to keep the continuity of a very good team together and see what they can do. Win maybe 4 or 5 Super Bowls. Maybe Belichick and Brady's record will be safe. Maybe nobody will get to there again.
Well, and the thing with them was, a lot of the time they did it without the big name guys. They had they had some big name players, Junior Seau, Rodney Harrison, but some of those guys came there at their end of their careers to win titles, right. And they took pay cuts. Brady took pay cuts every year just so they could keep the guys he wanted or sign the guys he wanted. And it's not like they had a ton of $100 million guys every season. They really didn't.
And that's why I always loved, not to brag about my team, but that's why I always loved Phil Simms and Eli Manning may never have been the top of the top quarterbacks, but they were very good quarterbacks, borderline Hall of Famers. Probably Eli's going to make it. I always thought Phil was a borderline Hall of Fame type. Maybe didn't have the stats he needed, but they stayed in one place. You loved them. They rewarded the team, the fans with 2 championships. And they rode off into the sunset as giants. And there was something to be said for that I don't think we're going to see again. Yeah,
no, I agree. And, we'll we'll see what happens here. But I do think, I know that it's the big talking point right now with what's going on in San Francisco. But I think it's not even being talked about enough. The way that they keep winning with this guy that was
let's
their
get to
third
that.
string quarterback. I mean, think about the 2014. Braxton Miller was really supposed to be the Ohio State quarterback. He gets hurt in fall camp and
Right.
dings up his shoulder. So then we go to the second string quarterback who ends up, breaking his leg. And then we go to the third string quarterback, and Cardale Jones, wins the national championship with the third string quarterback. And I don't think people made a big enough deal about that. And now we have a kid who may take his team to the Super Bowl from the third string quarterback role. And that's, most of these teams don't have one quarterback, much less two, and certainly not three. So I just think it's amazing. And I think it's we both have our opinions about John Lynch and his acumen as a general manager and him as a guy and all that. But I do think we need to give him some credit for the talent that he's stockpiled. I mean, he's gotten guys in the draft, he's gotten guys in free agency, he's gotten guys as undrafted free agents. He's built this team, and this team is built to travel, and they're built to win because they can run the football, they can stop people on defense. And, not teams these days have a hard time doing both.
Yeah, you're right. I've never been a Lynch fan, but I got to give him his props. I mean, as a player and now as a GM, it seems like he knows a little bit about football and a little bit more than me, so I can't say anything against him, which is right. But, I mean, let's talk about the San Francisco and Dallas game. We might as well start there when we did that. What you had to love about Brock Purdy, maybe didn't have his best game since he's been starting, but he held up against one of the best defenses in the NFL on the biggest stage, and there's something to be said for that.
Yeah, I mean, I was very impressed. I mean, he didn't make the big mistake. I mean, that was the thing that we talked about was, when is the bad game going to come? When are the mistakes going to show up? And, he's got Micah Parsons running after him, trying to take his head off, and he throws for 200-something yards and no picks, and outduels the guy across from him who's making $45 million a year. And, I think this just shows the kind of coolness, the kind of moxie, the kind of character that this kid has. The pressure is just not something that, gets to him. And, they didn't run the ball all that effectively in this game. They only ran for 100, I think it was like 113 yards total, with nobody going over 50 yards. And he still managed to do what he had to do to keep getting them down there in scoring range, kicking field goals, scoring touchdowns, doing whatever they had to do to win the game. And that's what this kid's all about. He just does what he has to do to help him win, and he doesn't make the big mistake. And it's amazing to watch.
And their defense too. I mean, their defense is the top defense probably in the NFL. Bosa's is just a maniac down there. DeMarco Ryan is a great coordinator. I mean, they understood what they had to do against Dallas. I mean, and they shut them down, and they deserve all the credit in the world for San Francisco. I'll tell you that I was rooting for San Francisco in a way outside of my Giants because I felt bad for Jimmy G, and when he got a chance, I wanted to see him succeed. And I like Brock Purdy. I mean, because I rooted for him at Iowa State. A little disappointed with him, like I said, his senior year. But another thing it's got to say is here's a kid who had 50-something starts in college at a huge university playing against big opponents. I mean, he's seen everything. So, I mean, maybe that's what inspired Lynch to take a chance on him when nobody else would. Because the fact of the matter is, he has a resume. He's shown it. He can do it. I mean, even that game they brought up, they're talking about it now because they're going against Jalen Hurts. He's a two-point conversion away from upsetting Oklahoma with Jalen Hurts as their quarterback.
Yeah, I mean, we've talked about it a ton. I mean, he played in a lot of games in college. I mean, 25 plus 20. I think he played in 48 games at Iowa State. So, has he played in a ton of NFL games? No, but he's definitely played a lot of football. And I think that's part of the reason that we're seeing this composure, that this isn't his first time playing football. Now, obviously, the NFL is a bigger stage and all that, but he's been in the limelight for a long time. My whole thing with him is I just didn't expect it to happen this fast. I was one of the people that thought, man, that's a steal getting that guy in the 7th round. I was like, he may be a dude that could come in and play for them at some point if Trey Lance sucks, or he's a guy that they can develop and trade for some capital. But I did not think that in year 1 he would get thrust into duty and never lose a game. I just didn't think he would be ready this quick. And I think it's a testament, one, to him. I think it's also a testament to this coaching staff, because they obviously had him prepared. They obviously did enough to get him ready, and obviously are grooming these game plans around what he does best. And I think that's the biggest thing. Is I don't think people talk about Shanahan enough.
Oh God, yeah.
And I mean, his play calling is just unbelievable. His play design is second to none. And this guy's kind of taken what his dad used to do and just and amplified it. Yeah. And if you think back to him when he was the offensive coordinator for the Falcons, he took them to the Super Bowl as the offensive coordinator, and that I think it had a lot to do with him. I mean, we gave Matt Ryan credit, we gave Quinn credit, we gave a lot of people credit, but and he got some too because he got a coaching job out of it. But I'm just saying, I think we really need to look at how instrumental he was to that team's offense, and he was very, very pass happy back then.
Right.
Matt Ryan threw the ball all the time, and he's really changed his game to what can help him win, especially considering the defense he has. He plays into the hands of that with running the ball as much as he does.
Yeah, he took a lot of flack for that, and rightfully so. I mean, but he's young and he learned from it. You know what I mean? The comeback happened. It expanded the Patriot legend. But the fact of the matter is, he took a lot of flack for that, but he didn't let it stop him, and he's improved. And like you said, he's learned, he's changed. He took what his father-in-law. He's a football junkie. You can just see it in him. He's a football junkie. I think there's a difference between him and McVay. And one thing is, I think McVay, they're both brilliant football minds, but McVay is Hollywood, where Shanahan is backyard football. Let's get down and dirty. Let's do everything we can. I mean, it's just a two-way to conduct their lives.
Well, yeah, he doesn't have
McVay doesn't want. Yeah, Shanahan doesn't want to do commercials. He wants to just draw plays.
Well, and he doesn't want to have a press conference after the season every year about whether or not he's going to keep coaching or stick around. Like he wants to coach his team, and he gets it done. But my big thing is this guy can win with anybody. It doesn't seem to matter who the quarterback is. Jimmy Garoppolo, Matt Ryan, Brock Purdy, Trey Lance. I don't give a crap who it is. He figures out a way to win. And even, if you remember a couple years ago when Jimmy went down, he won some games with CJ Beathard back there. He won a couple games with Nick Mullins. Now he couldn't sustain it because those guys suck, but he figured out a way to win a couple of games with those guys, those jokers back there behind center. So that's to me where you can see his greatness.
Yeah, with the McVay thing, maybe it's that Campbell soup curse. Everyone that seems to be on the Campbell soup spokesman for the NFL, their careers fall on bad times because they happened to Donovan McNabb and a few other guys. So maybe it's the Campbell soup curse. And speaking of curses, let's go on the other side because the Cowboys, it seems, put in Romo, same thing. Put in Dak, same thing. It doesn't matter who they plug in at quarterback, it seems, or coach. They're great or good to great in the regular season. They make the playoffs, and that's it.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what to say. I mean, they looked really good the week before. That offense was humming. Dak, had one of his best games ever in his career. And then, then he ran into the 49ers defense. And now that one pass was bad. That one interception was on Dak. The other one kind of hit his receiver's hands and bounced out and then went right into Fred Warner. So I don't know if I really put that one on him, but let's be honest, man, he's just he's being careless with the football, and it's become a pattern. And I can't really ever put my finger on what it is that stops the Cowboys from reaching their goals, but there is something doing it. Maybe it's the curse of Jimmy Johnson, man. They won a couple of titles, and Jerry just couldn't.
He's got a voodoo doll.
Yeah, he couldn't just let Jimmy be Jimmy, and he had to mingle with it, and then he had to say, "Oh, we'll win without you." And well, yeah, you won one more with old Barry Switzer, and then Buckus ever since.
And I'd say it's funny because you look around and the team has talent. I mean, their offensive line is pretty good, not as great as it was 4 years ago. Zeke is still maybe not Zeke, but he's Zeke. He's an older Zeke, and then Pollard gets hurt. I understand that, but I mean, they have a really good tight end. They have playmakers on the outside, and in big spots, big games, boom, butt kiss, nothing, bump kiss.
Yeah, they don't show up. I mean, Zeke had 10 carries for 26 yards. Tony Pollard 6 for 22. Dak 4 for 22. I mean, it's not like we can just rip on the running backs. I mean, there weren't many holes to run through. And then, throwing the football, CeeDee Lamb had a pretty decent game. Dalton Schultz had a touchdown catch, but, there wasn't enough playmaking from any of these guys to get it done. And, they still won 12 games, but there were times where we just kind of were like, what's going on? Because there was some inconsistency and that, that plagued them in this game versus the Niners.
Well, let's just put all of our cards on the table. The one consistent thing through, it's not been a drought, but through the year, coming up short is Jerry Jones. He won't give up the reins. He won't bring somebody in like a John Lynch or a Douglas or Joe Shane. He won't bring these guys in, give them the reins, and say, build me my team and call me at the end of the year when it's time to pick up the trophy.
Yeah, you'd think looking at what Philly's done with Howie Roseman, and you'd think he'd want to try and replicate that. I mean, right. Howie is a tremendous general manager. Look at what he did. He said, we got this Jalen Hurts guy. He looked really good in his first year as our starter. He needs a receiver. We need to help him. So what does he do? He goes out on draft day, he trades for A.J. Brown, and then he's like, well, we've got some pretty decent pass rushers, but you know what would make our pass rush even better is if our secondary was better. He's like, we got Darius Slay. He's a good corner, but we got to improve that. We go out and he signs Bradbury. Then what does he do? He makes a trade for Gardner Johnson and brings him in the mix, who has 4 interceptions in the first 6 games and is leading the NFL. So now he's got 3 badass corners to go along with his steady safeties and that pass rush. And now you got a team that can go to the Super Bowl. And that's the formula here that the other teams need to take notice of. They got a good GM. The GM knows what he's doing. The owner is hands off. And things are working out, and you'd think Jerry would see that and do something about it.
It just reminded me, to bring up another sport. It's like Steinbrenner did to the Yankees in the '80s, star power. But stars don't always make it work. You got to get the guy that fits in with the locker room, fits in with what you want to do, fits in with what the coaching staff wants to do, and that's what these GMs do. This is what they spend their lives doing. Jerry's a great businessman. Fantastic. I mean, the guy's a billionaire because he was smart and figured out how to make money. And he does make money with the Cowboys. Let's face facts. I mean, his brand is worth billions. But the fact of the matter is, the one thing he wants more than anything, is to win a trophy and get total credit for it. But he can't. And he can't take his ego away from it. So the Cowboys are always going to be this way as long as Jerry's doing this. And I'm sorry for him. But that's it. Let's move on to let's go to the Kansas City game, which of course gives us our biggest question mark of the weekend with Patrick Mahomes' ankle. Although all the reports are he's practicing and he feels good, and I'm sure they're going to shoot it up that day. It's going to have a brace on it and be taped to the maximum. But still, as everybody brings up, the spectacular off-script plays is what really separates Patrick Mahomes from everybody else. He'll have Kelsey there. He'll have all those weapons. But without being able to get outside, get off script, how much does that take away from the Chiefs?
Well, that's all that everyone's talking about. But my big thing is, even with Patrick Mahomes being healthy, they've lost to him 3 times in a row.
Mm-hmm.
So, that's all gone. But I'm just saying, even when he had that, they've had trouble beating the Bengals. So that's why I feel really good about the Bengals' chances. I know they're calling it Burrowhead Stadium now. And you know what? I mean, why shouldn't they? They've won 3 in a row in that place against these guys. And I feel really good about the Bengals' chances. 1, because, Mahomes is banged up. And 2, because even when Mahomes wasn't banged up, this is the one team that's given the Chiefs trouble and been able to beat them. So I feel really strongly about this Bengals team right now because, who are you going to stop? You're going to try and stop Jamar Chase? Well, good luck. No one's done that yet. And even if you do, double him up or bracket him, you still got Tyler Boyd. You still got Higgins. You still got Joe Mixon. You still got P. Ryan. And you still got Joe Burrow, who can pretty much do whatever he wants out there.
Well, let's go back to the Chiefs game for a minute. Because the Jags, for not playing maybe as the best game of their streak that they'd been on, hung in there, and they had a chance. 2 late interceptions take it all away from Trevor Lawrence a little bit, but I mean, they were understandable. I think in a way, the interception, he was trying to make something happen. What did you think about what the Jaguars showed us on that day as an upcoming team?
Yeah, I mean, I think they played pretty good. I mean, I think if you go back and look at this game, the one thing that they might have done was go after Chad Henne a little bit more, maybe bring the house on him, because really that was the difference in the game, that 98-yard drive where Chad Henne goes in at the 2 and leads them all the way down the field. Now, I know he didn't throw it all the way. They ran some. They had some really good creative play calling, but I'm just saying maybe you should have just gone for broke there when Chad Henne was in the game, because it seemed to me like once he came in, took them down there 98 yards and they scored, it kind of felt like it was over to me then. I mean, not like it was over, like the score was insurmountable, but it just felt like that doubt that could have crept into the Chiefs players' minds never got there because of that moment.
Do you think maybe Peterson thought that Mahomes was done when he went into the locker room? Do you think maybe that's why he kind of was a little bit patient there?
I think so. I sure did. I saw the amount of pain he was in. I saw how he wasn't able to really put any pressure down on it, and I thought he was done. And I didn't think they would let him come back. I figured he would want to come back in, but I just did not think that they would let him back in. And I thought they were in real trouble. But he still ended up having a pretty decent game considering he was had a high ankle sprain. The one thing that I just can't understand is, they've already named Mahomes the starter for this weekend. Andy Reid came out and named it. I just don't get it. I've seen these other guys get high ankle sprains and they're out for 4-6 weeks at a time. And this guy has a high ankle sprain and he's playing the next game and playing in the same game. I just, maybe there's different degrees of the sprain. I have no idea, but that to me is a little perplexing.
Well, I remember a couple of years ago when he dislocated his kneecap, and most guys would have been gone, and he comes back. I mean, he plays through. I think he has a high threshold of pain. That's one thing that works on him. But there comes a certain point where the muscle won't hold up. So they're gonna, all of this is window dressing till we see what he does on Sunday. So we'll see what happens. Not that I'm wishing him bad, but I am rooting for Cincinnati. Not for nothing, but I mean, I respect the hell out of Andy Reid, but I have trouble rooting for him because he ruined a lot of my Giants seasons with the fact that he beat up on him with Philadelphia. So got a little resentment there, but I respect the man like hell.
Oh, I love the guy, man. I used to do the Andy Reid show every Monday when I worked for Fox Sportsnet, Comcast Sportsnet in Philadelphia, and we did the Andy Reid show every Monday. And this guy, he was a football coach, man. I mean, that's just who he is. This guy loves football. He learned from the greatest coaches, maybe a couple of the greatest coaches of all time. And look at his success. I mean, 6 straight AFC West titles, when hell, we're calling that conference the best in all of football. A lot of people have for the past few years. Well, yeah, it's a great conference, but nobody can knock this team off. And we all think Patrick Mahomes is so great. Well, you know what? You take Patrick Mahomes and you throw him on another team. Let's see what he looks like, because you never really know, man. I mean, I'm not saying Patrick Mahomes isn't good.
No.
He's very good. He's very talented. He's a very good player. My point is, it all comes down to which team you go to, man. If you take this kid and you put him on the Cleveland Browns, hell, he might be traveling the world right now, riding in the back of Baker's car. I mean, who knows? It's a testament to Andy Reid and what a tremendous football coach he is.
Well, you see, this is the whole thing. Is like I think Andy Reid has finally found the quarterback that can do the play he dreams up, no matter what he does. And the thing here's the 2 differences between Joe Burrow and Pat Mahomes, or the whole situation. Before Joe Burrow got to Cincinnati, they were a mess. And within 2 years, he has them in the Super Bowl. Why he gets talked about more than his coaches, everybody knows, mostly because of him. Before Pat Mahomes took over in Kansas City, Alex Smith had him in the playoffs.
Right. That's my point. That's my whole point. This guy can win with anybody. You give him Donovan McNabb, he'll win with Donovan McNabb. You give him Michael Vick, he'll figure out a way to Michael Vick. I mean, it doesn't matter.
Again, not to mix the sports, but it's kind of like Pat Riley. When Pat Riley had all those players out in the Lakers, bam, he can win titles and titles and titles. Comes to New York, he still wins, but he just needed a couple of more big players. You know what I mean? And then the Knicks would have gotten over. With Andy Reid coaching, you're always going to be a playoff type team, but you give him everything he needs, you're a championship team.
Yeah, no, I mean look at what he's done since he stepped in Philadelphia. I mean, people don't even realize it. Yeah, I mean, he didn't win a Super Bowl there, but he was in 5 NFC championship games.
Yeah.
And they were a dominating team during that period. And who's to say why they didn't get over the hump, but he got it done, and he's continued to get it done since he got to Kansas City. And this was my example when he decided to part ways with the Eagles. I mean, he wasn't on the street long. I mean, he signed with the Chiefs immediately, and he just picked right up where he left off. And like you said, Alex Smith, Pat Mahomes, doesn't really matter. Whoever's playing quarterback, he figures out a way to win.
Yep. So let's go over to the Bills and the Bengals. Bills, you had to feel sorry for him in a lot of ways, because I mean, it seemed like everything was set up for him. You got the I can't even think of his name now. The player there up in the box cheering him on, and you have Josh
Hamlin.
You have Josh Allen having such a good year. You think this is Buffalo weather, even though I don't think it's that big a deal with Cincinnati, because Cincinnati gets crappy weather too, and they're an outdoor team. So yeah, I think that kind of thing was kind of a even swap. It's not going to bother them that much coming up there. But they had the crowd, they had everything there, and Cincinnati just took it right to them out of the gate. Do you think? Let's go back to the beginning. Do you think it was a mistake for the Bills to opt to give that ball to Burrow to start the game?
Yeah, Yeah, I do. I think that was a big mistake. I mean, there's everybody, gives a lot of credit to their coach, and I do like him. But I mean, let's think back to last year when they had 13 seconds and he decided to boot it into the end zone instead of squib kick it. I mean, those couple of seconds were the difference in the game. And this, you start off even if you don't score on the first drive. You keep Joe Burrow off the field, you burn some clock, you get your team going, whatever. Obviously, it would help to
More
go.
snow coming down, the field's getting worse.
Yeah, maybe Burrow gets cold over there. Maybe he's wanting to go back home and nestle under the fire. I mean, who the hell knows? But you choose to kick off, and it was like I went to get a soda and I come back and it's 14-0. And I'm like, wait a second, what? How is it 14-0? I was just, my daughter was yapping at me and I was fooling around and, I'm always doing something. And then I look down, I look back up, it's 14-0. And I'm like, wait a second, how is it 14-0 right now? And honestly, it was 17-7 at halftime, but it should have been worse. It should have been 24-7 if they hadn't screwed the Bengals a couple of times in this game. This game could have been worse than it was.
Yeah, I want to talk, while you brought that up, the Chase second touchdown. Someone brought this is not me. Someone brought this up, and I thought it was a great question here. I thought that was a touchdown. Okay? And someone brought it up and said, okay, so you have to hold the ball, even though you have control seemingly, you have to hold the ball totally as you go out the back of the end zone. Yet, if you're at the front of the end zone, all you have to do is break the plane and a guy can slap it out of your hands.
It doesn't make any sense. And when did he lose control of it? I
didn't see it either.
I kept hearing people going, "Oh, look, you see the ball move." I'm like, "What the fuck are you talking about? I don't see the ball moving." He caught it. He corralled it. He took a couple steps and then he fell down. And I'm like, he never lost the ball. I just, that didn't make any sense to me. And that was the worst call I've seen in some day. And they called it a touchdown first and then overturned it, which makes even less sense because there was definitely no, indisputable video evidence that wasn't a catch. He caught it. He never let go of it. He scored. He put 2 feet down. I mean, it should have been a touchdown as soon as he put the second foot down. And this crap about maintaining control to the ground, it's a joke. And I never saw him lose control. I never saw the ball move. If it moved very slightly. And that was definitely a touchdown.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it wasn't. He's got a linebacker slapping in his hands, and he can't get the ball away from him.
Well, and then the other thing was the Joe Mixon touchdown, which they called not a touchdown, and then they reviewed it, and then they ruled it a touchdown when I watched 15 different angles of it. You could never see him cross the end zone. They were like, well, you could see his legs, and his legs were past the line, so the ball must have been. And I'm like, wait a second. So now you're telling me that the ball must have moved on this one and the ball must have gone over the line. I'm like, I thought we were supposed to do what the video shows us, not what we subjectively think is happening. But that apparently is not the way it works. So I have no idea what they're doing with these calls and these replays because it makes absolutely no sense.
Well, and on the flip side of the ball, I mean, with the Bills, I got just one thing to say. Get the guy a running back.
Oh, it's a difference in the game. I mean, look at the Bengals. They have Joe Mixon goes 20 carries for 105 yards. Their backup running back, Samaje Perine, goes 7 carries for 33 yards. Both of them have more yards than anybody on the Bills. And the Bills' leading rusher, Josh Allen, 8 carries for 26. So I don't understand it. They keep drafting these guys in the 3rd, 4th, 5th round and trying to plug them in. Devin Singletary, to me, is just a guy that, I mean, he's okay, but he's just not a guy. If you're trying to win a Super Bowl, I think that you can lean on. And getting James Cook, who never has carried the load for in college or the pros, I don't see how he's the answer. And I don't know why they don't insert a big time running back because that's the only thing this team is missing.
And there's going to be there could quite possibly be 2 very good running backs that are going to be out there, and I don't want to see one of them leave, which is Saquon. And Josh Jacobs, if I'm right, is not under contract in Vegas, is he?
No, he is not. They declined to pick up the 5th-year option on him, so he is definitely a free agent.
So, I mean, if you're in Buffalo and you don't have one of those guys in your uniforms next year, you should be fired if you're instead of that general manager complaining about Jamar Chase. We don't want to suck enough to get Jamar Chase. How about this one? Be smart enough to get a running back.
Yeah, and then the guy that he goes out and gets is Stephon Diggs, who's screaming at Josh Allen on the sideline, and then leaves the locker room before they even talk to him after the game. I mean, there's a reason why the Minnesota Vikings let him go, and it wasn't because he can't play football. It's because he's a head case, and they were like, "Yeah, get this dude out of here and save us the trouble." Because what did they do? They went out and got Justin Jefferson the next year with the draft pick. Now they don't have to deal with Stephon Diggs, and they have a guy that's actually better.
Yeah. So, and the last thing we'll hit is my worst game of the weekend. But I mean, I didn't expect much. I was hoping they would keep it close. I wasn't expecting a win. Brian Daboll has already paid off. The Giants, we're going to see what they do over the course of the offseason. We just talked about Saquon. Love to see him come back. Daniel Jones, they've got to bring him back. I don't see them starting out with another quarterback again right now. They got to get some wide receivers. But Philadelphia's just much better than them. I mean, right now, Philadelphia, at every level, there's not one position on the Giants, maybe kicking, maybe field goal kicker, but probably not. Outside of that, there's not one position on that field that the Giants had the better players, and that's just how simply it was.
Yeah, I kept hearing everybody say that the one position where the Giants are better is running back, and I was just like, well, the Giants have Saquon Barkley, but as a group, the Eagles definitely have a better running back. I mean, they got Boston Scott, they got Miles Sanders, they've got Gainwell. I mean, Gainwell might have been the best running back in this game, and no one even knows who he is. I mean, he had 12 carries for 112 yards, 9.3 a carry, including a 35-yarder, and no one even knows who that dude is. So, yeah, I agree with you every position. But I got to be honest, Jalen Hurts was phenomenal. And coming back, still not being 100%, but doing what he had to do to get the win. You know me, I love Jalen Hurts, so I give him a ton of credit. But the one dude that when I watched this game that really stood out to me is the best, the number one rated player based on money in the NFL. I mean, Hassan Reddick signed.
Oh God, that was a great signing. What
3 year, $45 million. Okay, 3 years. That's like, an average salary of $15 million a year. And this guy is a game changer. He led the team in tackles. He had a sack and a half. He hit the quarterback 3 times. I mean, he was all over the place. He is the best value in the NFL.
And right now, you couldn't tell the difference between him and Micah Parsons.
Not watching that game. I mean, the kid finished the season this year, he's still playing. But as of right now in the season, he's got 16 sacks, which is tied for second in the NFL. He's caused 5 forced fumbles, which is first in the NFL. And like I said, he makes $15 million a year. He wanted to go home. He played at Temple. He's from not Philly, but the New Jersey area, right near Philadelphia. I wanted to be close to home. This guy is the best value in the NFL, and man, he is just a difference maker because every time I was looking up at the screen, he was all over the place. Even when he wasn't getting home, he was making life hell for Daniel Jones, and I don't think he gets the credit that he deserves.
No, I mean, that's what a great defensive player does too. Is like he creates the problem where other people make the tackles. So that's what he was. He was a game changer. Can I just say one thing about Boston Scott? Giants, I know we don't really need him, but the only way the Giants are ever going to stop killing him out of the end zone is to trade for him.
Yeah, I mean, this guy, I think every touchdown he's ever scored has been against the Jets or against the Giants.
I don't know. What did the Giants ever do to him? Did somebody in the Giants steal his girlfriend or something? I don't know. Because he seems to be inspired every time he sees blue.
It's like they roll the red carpet out to him. Every time he's in the backfield, they're like, oh, here's the end zone, sir. And he just runs right to it. And, I mean, he's a good running back, but he looks a lot better when he's playing the Giants than he does everybody else.
He looks better. And it's frustrating for me, but I'm like sitting there going, I love that little water bug. Put him on the freaking Giants. I'll take him in a minute. Him and Saquon in the backfield, I'd take that in a minute.
No, and that's what I'm talking about with the Eagles running backs. I mean, they got Gainwell, they got Sanders, they got Jalen Hurts, they got Boston Scott. They've got four guys that can carry the ball and make things happen. I mean, Boston Scott 6 carries, 32 yards, touchdown. Jalen Hurts 9 carries, 34 yards, touchdown. Sanders had 17 carries for 90, and then Gainwell had 12 for 112. So.
Thank you.
Yeah, so we will see. Let's start talking about this week's game, what we think is going to go on. We'll start with the first game, which is, of course, the Eagles, San Francisco. I think it's going to be a low-scoring game. I think it's going to be a defensive game. I think we're going to keep it. I think it's going to be under 20, the winning team. I think like a 17-13 game. I think I would give more advantage to the Eagles if Jalen was 100%. I think maybe that's a little benefit towards San Francisco. I'm going like 17-13. I want San Francisco. So I want Cincinnati because I want to see them mix it up again in the Super Bowl. But I think Philadelphia is gonna take care of San Francisco and go on. I just think they've been the best team all year long, outside of the time when Jalen was hurt. Go ahead. What do you think about?
I'm the complete opposite of you. I want the Eagles to win because I like Jalen Hurts so much, and I just like this team, man. I love the way they play. I love the way they run the ball. I love the way they play defense. I love the athletes they have. I love the way they play as a team. I love everything about this team, even though I'm not an Eagles fan. I love this team, and I really want to see them win this game. But I don't think there's anybody hotter than the San Francisco 49ers right now. And every time I think that they're going to get slowed down, they don't. And they just keep winning. And they've won, 10, 11 in a row now?
Yeah.
And I have a hard time seeing them lose because they've got a team that can travel.
So what's your score?
I'm taking the 49ers. I'm going to take them 19-16.
Okay. Now we'll go to the later game. This is another game where my heart, but I have to go with my heart here. I really believe Joe Burrow is on the verge of just being the face of the league, along with Patrick Mahomes. I think the two of them are right now the best there are. Jalen Hurts is right there, Josh Allen, but they're a little bit below these guys. They play a little bit different. I just think that right now, I would think. I'll tell you, I know what football is, and it's hard to beat a great team 4 games in a row, no matter what. It's hard. Just everything has to go right and everything else. But I think Mahomes, I just don't think his not being able to get outside to make the off-script play. No one talked about it, but that much. But a lot of times, his runs at this time, he knows when to take his chances, and he won't be able to do that this week to extend drives. So I just think it's going to be Burrows. I think it's going to be like a 24-17 game, I think, or maybe a 20. I'll go 27-17 Bengals.
Yeah, I'm taking the Bengals too. As great as the Chiefs are, and I just sat here and talked about how awesome Andy Reid is and the Chiefs are for 45 minutes, but for some reason, the Bengals have got their number, and they just match up well against them. They've got those athletic linebackers. Pratt is somebody who doesn't get talked about enough and is really good. They got Hubbard and Hendrickson, and then the 2 inside guys for Cincinnati are players that I don't think anybody gives the respect they deserve. I mean, DJ Reader is one of the best defensive tackles in the league, in my opinion. I like BJ Hill, too. And both those guys are just a 2-man wrecking crew. And then Logan Wilson, I said Pratt, but Logan Wilson's a badass too. So I just feel like the one defense that can slow down the Chiefs is the Bengals. And then, they beat them 3 times in a row when Mahomes has been healthy. And now we all know he's not. So.
All right, we'll get ready to wrap up here. But I wanted to bring up a guy who passed away. I love college basketball, and this is one of the guys who gave me a love for college basketball, Billy Packer. Loved him as an announcer. ACC guy through and through. I used to love when I listened to him, Dick Enberg, and Al McGuire, because Al McGuire was the big Northeast guy, Midwest guy. The way, Al McGuire's get down and dirty, and he had all the funny sayings, French pastry, all that stuff. Billy was a solid basketball man, and the three of them together were fantastic. I was never a Dick Vitale guy. He was kind of over the top, a showman, a barker. These guys actually didn't have to try and bring the excitement to the game. And they also were great announcers because they let the game tell the story. Too many times you're listening to these announcers right now, and they try to be the game. These guys understood the vision, the picture will tell the story. All we have to do is fill in the blanks. And he was great and sorely missed because he was a great advocate for college basketball and did a lot of good things for him. I don't know how much you got to listen to him because he retired. I think he retired around 92, and he'd been taken off the number one spot by other guys. But
I thought he did the 2013 game.
Did he 2013? I thought he was.
Yeah, I thought his last game was the Memphis Kansas game.
Okay, could be.
Yeah, I don't know if it was 2013, but it was the game with Memphis versus Kansas, I believe, was his last game. So I do remember him, and I always enjoyed him. So,
all right, people, it is championship weekend. Enjoy the show, and we will be back next week to talk about and start getting ready for the Super Bowl.
Sounds good, buddy. Enjoy the games, and I'll see you next week.
Yeah, bye.